This is the all-new Community Connection. I'm your host, Jade, Harrell, keeping you connected to our community. It's the 75th anniversary of the Tuskegee Airmen, and you are invited to commemorate the occasion with a special select U.S. movie theater screening on March 29th, and St. Louis is on the list. Fathom Events is partnering with Bryan Entertainment to present, in their own words, the Tuskegee Airmen, the 75th anniversary, in cinemas for the first time ever. I'm joined today by executive producer Bryan Williams of Bryan Entertainment. Hi, Bryan. What an amazing project to be a part of.
Well, just the fact that the airmen, they told us, they said, a couple things. They said, please never let our story die. We're going to grant the interviews, and we'd like to go with you guys, but just don't let the story die. And, oh, my gosh, I'll give you just a very quick, in 2009, we finished it. We showed it. We're out of Augusta, Georgia. We had a showing here in Augusta. We brought in 4 airmen, and it was funny. It was the weekend right before President Obama's inauguration. Mm-hmm. So they were so excited. They thought it was going to be like a dinner for about 30 people, and there were about 900 people in this venue.
Wow.
So they had a ball, and then they got to fly out the next day to the inauguration. So a lot of them told us that was one of the greatest weekends they'd ever had. And, well, what that did is it really kind of let us know what we had and let us know that we had captured this incredible history that's dying off. And so we tried to set out and get distribution. And it's very hard. We're having a lot of success, again, in music videos, but not in going into retail stores and stuff like that with products. So
exactly.
How funny is this? We ended up had a private meeting with Bill Cosby for about an hour and a half. Yeah. And it was funny, the first 45 minutes he drilled us. Just wanted to know, it's funny, how in the world the 2 white guys do this project?
Yeah, right?
Funny.
Did he say that?
I'll tell you, I love everyone. My wife's actually African-American, but it was just why not do it? It's such an incredible, heroic story. I love heroes. And he said, well, look, after we answered all his questions, it was funny, for 45 minutes, he said, look, you guys are legit. Let's see what I can do to help. So basically, he took some pictures with us and tweeted about it. Mm-hmm. But then at the same time, George Lucas reached out to us because they were making Red Tails, and they'd heard about the documentary. So they used the documentary on the set of Red Tails. Because when you see it, I'll have to get you a copy. When you see it, it's, of course, you can see it in theaters too, but there's so much character in it. It's 90 minutes of just character. And so anyway, when that happened, it came out in stores, retail stores in 2012 to correlate with Red Tails. Now, we had revamped it at that point. Mm-hmm. Well, then this last year, we thought, next year is the 75th anniversary. Let's because a lot of things didn't happen in 2011, 2012 that we wanted to have happen. I won't go into a lot of who said no, but it was ridiculous, all the TV outlets, the national outlets said no, and some of them who you'd be like, what? They said, we've already done enough on the subject, no one's interested in the subject. It was crazy.
That is
if we don't air it in February, then we can't air it. And so that really infuriated us, and so what we did is we set out to what can we do? Well, in 2012, the Pittsburgh Steelers brought us up and had us on Veterans Day on the Monday Night Football on the sideline with an airman, which was just one of the greatest. I've never done something like that. It was one of the greatest moments of our life, and really for him, because he'd never been recognized by the Steelers, and he lived in Pennsylvania.
Who was that? Who went with you?
His name was Wendell Freeland.
Mm-hmm. Exactly.
It's funny, most of our projects I direct, but I just happen to be the producer on this one.
So you're typically a director, huh?
Yeah, mostly a director, yeah. What
made you switch hats on this one?
Well, it's funny. We didn't really, when we set out, I'll tell you a quick story. I know you have limited time, but in 2007, we were shooting 2 music videos, and you've probably heard of Jimmy Hicks with Born Blessed. And,
yes.
Yeah, we did the video for Born Blessed, and we did a lot of his music videos. And so we were shooting 2 music videos, and we went to a restaurant after a shoot real late one night, sitting there with my partner, the director, and then of Tuskegee Airmen. I was the director of his music videos, and with an actor. And I told him, I said, my wife said about 2 weeks ago in a car, she said that she sees us producing a documentary, which we all laughed. We don't do documentaries. And my wife is very reserved, and she usually doesn't suggest things for the company, which after this, I've told her she has to suggest one idea a week from now on. So.
Right. She's certainly on the right path.
Yes, ma'am. Well, she said that, so we started thinking, what would we do one on? And we had no creativity that night. I think we were just tired, and so we prayed. We're a Christian-based company, so we said, well, look, let's just ask God. what we should do one on. And it was funny. We said the prayer, and we always say, hey, God, just get us out of the way and, lead us on the path that you would have us do and give us the discernment to understand what you want.
Yeah.
And it was so funny. We said that prayer, we said amen, and we waited 13 seconds, and we thought that was plenty enough time for God to answer.
Right.
Which he didn't.
Yeah.
We thought we should have about a million ideas at that point.
We do that. Yeah, we do that.
Yes, ma'am. So we prayed, nothing happened, so we said, okay, well, let's help God out here, because he's probably busy, saving some people from hurricanes or something. So let's what can we do it on? And we couldn't think of anything. So literally the food got there, and we said, you know what? Let's pray again, and this time we'll mean it. And really just leave it alone. Yeah. So we prayed, and I kid you not, this was August 5th, 2007. We prayed, and we said amen. And when I said amen, the door opens to the restaurant, and it's this little old African-American gentleman comes in. He's got a Tuskegee Airman hat, jacket, and shirt on.
No way.
And we look, and I'm like, what in the world? And I said, I think that's a Tuskegee Airman. And my partner Denton said, wow, you don't see one of those every day.
No.
So we said, wow. Okay, anyway, what should we do one on? It's like it just flew right up for our head. Like, oh my gosh. So he sits down, and about 10 minutes later, I equate God to Fred Sanford.
Yeah.
And he was like, dummy, look.
Right, you big
and
dummy.
I look over, the guy smiling at me. And so we go and talk to him, and we say from that moment, God didn't give us a documentary, but he gave us direction.
Yeah.
And we followed it. And it's if I'd keep you on the phone all day if I told you all the God moments in the past 9 years.
I love talking about God and God moments, man.
Man, I'm telling you, he does. It's funny. Like I said, a lot of the airmen told us that the way you succeed in life is you put your head down, because you start off in prayer, and you go forward. And you don't worry about what's going on around you. You just go forward. And when you hear their stories, I'll never forget asking a couple of them, I said, why in the world would you fight for a country that didn't even consider you human?
Right.
And their response floored me. I couldn't, I'll get emotional thinking about it. I'll never forget they'd tell me, well, it's my country too. And when you hear that from someone who's being told by everyone that supposedly matters that you don't matter, and you still believe that, man, let me tell you, if I could, I'd like to tell you two quick stories how the documentary affects people. When the documentary came out to stores in 2012, I called my mother-in-law, who's African-American, and she's one of the sweetest women I've ever met in my life. And I called her, and we were very close, and I said, guess what? It came out. It hit Walmart today, and oh, my goodness, it's all over the country. And she said, son, she says, thank you. And I said, well, no. And I'm thinking it's just kind of one of those generic, thank you, did a good job. And she said, no, you don't understand. Thank you. And I said, well, okay. And she said, well, let me tell you a story. She said, when I was about 5 or 6 years old, growing up in LaGrange, Georgia, she goes, we were coming home from school one day walking on this dirt road, and there were about 5 or 6 of us, cousins and friends, and the oldest might have been around 11 or 12. And she said that we heard something coming up behind us, and we looked, and it was a truck, and the truck was driving real erratic and real crazy. So we kind of jumped off the side of the road, and as the truck got beside us, there was these two white guys, and they just looked crazy. She said, I'll never forget the look in their eyes, and they just looked crazy. She said, and they started yelling at us and throwing stuff at us, and it scared us so bad we ran all the way home. And she said, when we got home, I told my mama what had happened, and she said, my mama just said, honey, that's not them. She said, what do you mean? She said, that's not them. She said, that look you saw in their eyes, that's the devil. That's not, these guys have no idea what they're doing, and what they're doing is wrong. And you got to think, when she's telling me this, I'm in tears, because this is the sweetest lady I've ever met in my life, and how somebody could do that to her.
Like that, right?
I didn't come up in, I was born in 71, and I live in the South, but I haven't seen a lot of the craziness, not with the circles I run with. I know it's there, but I didn't grow up in that. But, so she said, well, what we're going to do right now, honey, is we're going to pray for those guys. She goes, because they need Jesus, and they don't understand that what they're doing is wrong, and that's what the look you saw in their eyes. So they prayed. And she said every once in a while, if she was growing up, her mom would say, did you pray for those two white guys today? She's like, I don't want to pray for those two white guys. But she said, no, you got to pray for them. So she told me that morning, she said, son, you just erased that look in those eyes for me. And I'm, to hear that from her, I said, oh man, Mom, I called her Mom. I said, I didn't, we just captured the story. She said, no, you pushed and you pushed and you pushed. Because it was hard. It was very hard from 2007 to 2012 to go to stores. We're nobody. We're this little tiny company, and nobody knew. And a lot of people, I won't say a lot of people didn't want to have anything to do with it, but there were people who could have helped that didn't.
Right.
That for whatever reason. Then there's the other quick story. In 2009, we're going to have this big showing in Augusta, and I showed it to my dad. I went over to my dad's house, showed it to him and his wife. And my dad grew up in that South that we're talking about, and he was on a farm, and his dad had a lot of problems with a lot of people. And he said that black people came into the back of the house when they came into when he was little. He said, I didn't even know it was wrong when I was little. I just thought that's the way it was. And so when he was watching the movie, usually I like to sit behind people to see their reactions or to kind of hear their reactions. And I didn't hardly hear anything. He would laugh. There's some very funny parts in it, and he'd laugh some, and he'd just be very quiet. And when the movie ended, I turned around, and he was crying so hard he couldn't talk.
Wow. And
he said, and when he finally could talk, he was saying, I never knew. I never knew. And that's all he could get out. And that night he told me, he said, son, in the late 70s, when you were I had heart issues real bad when I was a kid, and he said, when we had you in the hospital, he said, I was working 3 jobs. He said, and I barely remember that at 5 and 6 years old, him just being dead, exhausted, just constantly working. He couldn't get any help. Back then, insurance was a lot worse than it is now.
Oh, yeah.
And my mom was having to stay with me, so he finally, and you got to think, this is a man that don't ask for help.
Right.
He finally went down to ask for help. And he was told he was the wrong color at this point. So he said, that didn't make me hate black people. He said, I don't hate black. He said, but what it did is it made me hate the system. And our system is so stupid and so screwed up. He said, but it made me so bitter. He said, and that bitterness is gone after watching this. Wow. It's just gone.
Wow.
He said, because now I understand it from the other perspective. And I'll tell you, and I think we're all the same, but I'll tell you, when white people hear my mother-in-law's story, they're just floored. I mean, they're just like, because they can't see this happen to this nice lady,
And it's hard to conceive, within the world we're in, it's hard to conceive that level of humanity and forgiveness.
Right.
From one person to another. And she expressed that in that one sentence.
Right.
We get so caught up with the symptoms and the surface and the outside markings that we eliminate and forget about the spirit and person that's underneath.
Amen. And that's what. And when my dad said what it does. I'm telling you, and I'm not. Look, yeah, of course, I'm the biggest fan of the Airmen. I mean, I love them to death. There's still 8 alive of the 16 we interviewed, and all 8 are going to see the movie in their cities, which is so cool.
I love that.
Yeah, we're actually flying in a 97-year-old Colonel McGee Monday to hang out with us in Augusta.
Oh my goodness!
It's so cool.
It is wonderful.
But they're happy, and because nothing against. Look, we love old George Lucas, but Red Tails and the Tuskegee Airmen movie on HBO, they're movies, and they're going to take liberties with movies, and the Airmen look at it like, well, at least they did it. At least they got them out there. But with ours, it's called in their own words, because when you see it, it literally, there's very little narration. The narration just really bridges the segments. It's really just them telling their stories, and it's so touching and heartwarming. There's a segment in the documentary where they talk about the white officers and how there were white officers that wanted to help them. It wasn't always, they said we get sick of hearing that there was no one trying to help us. There were really good officers. And when those officers would help us, they would be subject to all kind of humiliation and degradation.
Oh, yeah.
So, but the movie theater companies really liked it a ton, because they're like, we need this in today's day and age. When every other day we're seeing this person's racist, this person's shooting this person, we need to see this, because the documentary really brings us all together. It's about the Tuskegee Airmen and their incredible triumph, but they'll be the first to tell you, we got to all work together.
Yes.
We got to love each other, and that's what's so special about it. And we just can't. I mean, we're so grateful that happened. As a production company, hey, it's pretty amazing to have our first picture go into theaters. But I'll tell you, that's a little secondary to the fact that this is their story, and we're honoring that promise to never let it die.
Exactly, and not just that promise, the promise of their ancestors, that paved the way for them to even board a plane or to even attend a school or to even show their faces.
Mm-hmm.
You know, this is a huge part of our story, you know.
Right.
And their history is our history. It's all of our history. And I'm so glad that it'll be on a broad screen and be told in a big way and be told in their own words. Was there anybody that really compelled you or convicted your spirit in a great, grand way?
Of the airmen?
Yes.
Oh gosh, yeah. You know, I'll say a quick answer, all of them, but yeah, there's definitely specific ones. Span Watson, who's in the documentary, he was 93 years old in Long Island, New York, when we interviewed him, and it was funny. I'll tell you a quick story. It's funny. Mm-hmm. The two Tuskegee airmen, Lee Archer and Roscoe Brown, who were like kind of the most famous of the airmen in New York, we interviewed them in Manhattan, and they said, "You got to go interview Span. And we're going to call and set up the interview for you. You're going to love him. Now, he's going to curse you out at first. But if you can get past that cursing, you're going to love him. I said, look, I probably deserve good cursing. We'll head on out there.
Right.
So it was funny. We got out there, and Span realized that where I live in Augusta, Georgia, is very close to a place called Edgefield, South Carolina. Mm-hmm. Well, that's where Span was born. No. So Span immediately thought, oh, you're a homeboy. You're one of my people. So as we started talking, he started telling us all. We talked for 2.5 hours with him and interviewed him. We got about an hour and a half's worth of footage. He told us a story, and it had me in tears. I was like, this man is incredible. He said that when he was a kid, they moved from South Carolina to New Jersey. He said they didn't see racism in South Carolina, they saw it in New Jersey, which is crazy. He said that's when we started seeing it. He said, because I got on the baseball team, my school, and he showed us the picture. He actually had the picture. It was, like 11 or 12 white kids and him. Mm-hmm. And he said that year we won the state championship. Or the city championship. And he said everybody got a medal except for me. And I'm talking to this 93-year-old man who's cute as a button and he's got so much personality, and it's just killing me that he's telling me this. He said, but you know what, Bryan? He said, if you just put your head down and you just keep working and keep working and keep working, he said, you know what? 7 years ago, they got me my medal. Mm-hmm. And I was like, I wasn't really that happy with that result. And he said, well, you don't look like you like that. I said, well, he said, look, I got it. The point is, I got it. Mm-hmm. It doesn't matter how long it takes you to do. You just do what's right, and eventually people come around. Mm-hmm. And I was like, well, to believe that, and because our generation, and I'm going to pick on everybody, but especially the younger ones, they need to learn more about that kind of that kind of determination, and understanding, because everybody now, look, if I can't get it right now, it's not worth it. And right. Believe me, if we'd have decided that with the documentary, we wouldn't be going to theaters this year or next week.
That's right.
So you've got to have that determination, and that's what they taught us. I think more than anything is one of the airmen told us this, and it's kind of a tongue twister, but he said, "Never let anyone tell you what you can't do until you figure out you can't do it. And what you'll figure out is there's nothing you can't do if you put your mind to it."
So you don't have to listen to none of that.
That's right.
I love it. So, Bryan, send out the invitation to our listeners to hear, enjoy, and take part in the very special screening of In Their Own Words, honoring the 75th anniversary of the Tuskegee Airmen.
Sure, yes. For anyone listening, please go out to theaters Tuesday night. It's a one-night event only. You will be inspired. This will change your whole outlook on everything, race, determination, inspiration. It's going to inspire you. You're going to see men who are absolute heroes, and they're not going to be around for much longer. A few of them are still out there. You can find them, and you can talk to them, and you can thank them. But please go see the movie Tuesday night, 7 o'clock in the theaters in your area, and I think you will come back a changed person.
Wow, and that's what we do hope for in the end. They flew so we could.
Right, that's exactly right.
I love it. Bryan Williams, the executive producer of the 75th anniversary, In Their Own Words, the Tuskegee Airmen, that you can enjoy exclusively here in select theaters in St. Louis, Tuesday, March 29th at 7 p.m. We look forward to it. Learn more at fathomevents.com. That's FATHOM events.com for more info. All right, that's it for this week. If you have questions or comments or have something you'd like to include in the community calendar, you can leave a message on our message box at 314-333-8369, 314-333-8369. And for more information about our show or any of our guests, you can visit us online and listen to the podcasts at Spreaker.com. That's Spreaker.com. And search Community Connection with Jade Harrell. You all be blessed, do blessed, and take care.